So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Basics of Borrowing webinar conducted by two distinguished members of the Loan Fund. My name is Christopher Garcia, Business Development Specialist at the SBDC at UNM Valencia campus, and I'll be facilitating today's webinar. I want to go over some webinar ground rules with you, then introduce you to our distinguished panelists. Everyone on the webinar is muted, so don't worry about background noise. And we sent out two documents from today's panelists, so please check your email box. There is a feature to raise your hand, so I'd like everybody on the call to raise your hand if you could see and hear me. Oh, good. Very good. Perfect. Finally, there's a Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen, and I'd like you to put in your questions to that Q&A feature, and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation. So in fact, if anybody on the call right now is able to, can you put in a hi, hello, how are you into the Q&A, just so we can make sure it's working for today. Very good, thank you, Holly, and hi. Perfect. Very good. Now I'd like to read a bit about today's panelists. First, we'll start off with CEO Leroy Pacheco. Has numerous years of experience in lending. His nonprofit organization, the Loan Fund, has helped numerous financially underserved small businesses and nonprofits across New Mexico to start, grow, and thrive. Their clients are typically unable to access credit through traditional lending criteria. Our second panelist, Dr. Marvin Lozano, is an entrepreneurial consultant who has worked as a bilingual commercial lender, business owner, and business college professor. He has extensive experience in domestic and international commercial banking, entrepreneurial consulting with community alternative lenders and chambers of commerce, and teaching and training students and faculty in higher education. Dr. Lozano earned a Bachelor of Science degree from Arizona University, a Master's of Science in Management and Policy degree from the University of Arizona, and a Doctor of Education and Educational Leadership from the University of New Mexico. And without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to, who would like to begin? Mr. Pacheco? Go right ahead.
Good morning, everybody. We have, thank you for being with us today. Chris Garcia, I don't know if your listeners or your viewers here, Chris is probably the most active, most effective small business consultant of the 17, 18 offices that exist in New Mexico. Chris has brought us multiple loans over the years, and we have funded many, many loans from people who have attended these particular webinars, these particular podcasts regarding the basics of borrowing. I really appreciate, again, there's a bio that he sent out on the Loan Fund. I'm not going to spend much time telling you about the $100 million of loans that we've made in the last 30 years, or the 12,000 jobs that we have created, and the loans that we made last year during COVID. In 2020, we made $11 million of new loans, from $5,000 to $1.5 million, to profit as well as nonprofit, to business startups as well as to existing businesses for expansion. About 8 million of that was just to keep businesses open. As you know, the government mandates that told us to go home, don't hug anybody, wear a mask, close your business, you're not an essential business. It devastated the business economy in New Mexico. And so last year we did a lot of emergency surgery. Marvin and I were able to make 121 loans. It's almost a loan every day when we're open, and put out $11 million. From Socorro to Angel Fire to Santa Teresa to Deming to Silver City, to restaurants, haircutters, spas, event centers. And we're here today to bring you, I think, some good news. There are some basics of borrowing that you all should be aware of. Many of you, please let us know towards the end if you're a startup, if you've been doing something part-time in your garage or at home, or working for someone else, but you've learned and you've got a skill, You've learned how to sew, you've learned how to weld, you've learned how to make tortillas, you've learned how to make beef jerky, you've learned how to be a nurse and start your own. We have 2 nurses, right, Chris? That we put in the business in Belen, the Valencia Health and Wellness Center. I think it was a $200,000-300,000 loan. They bought their own building. You were down there for the grand opening. Beautiful building. They're doing fantastic. 2 nurses that wanted to get out on their own and provide some health services on the street to the people in Belen and Valencia County. So we're going to talk today, and I'm real pleased and fortunate that Marvin Lozano, Dr. Lozano, and I have been working together probably since the 80s. And Chris, he actually worked for Nita, Arizona, and I worked for Nita here in Albuquerque with Anna Muller for years and put together millions of dollars of packages. So we're very fortunate, Chris, to be able to get one of your colleagues at the Small Business Development Centers also to come in. We're going to talk about loans. And then towards the end for everybody here, and we mailed one to Chris. This is a book that Dr. Lozano and his wife, Dr. Rivera, put together, and it says exactly what we do. Balancing business, family, and culture. Our loans last year didn't go to Kmart, Costco, and Walmart. They went to the Chris Garcias and the Marvin Lozanos on the corners who make tortillas, who weld, who build houses, who dig trenches, who mow lawns, make coffee, etc. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So what I want to do is, I hope all of you are going to take some good notes. And if there's a friend that should have been here today that wasn't, take an extra copy of what we have, okay? And tell them they missed out. We're going to go through things. Marvin's going to go through some steps on how to start a business. And then he's going to go through a little 3-page thing that only take 50 years to put together, Chris, about who needs to be your partner, what kind of business plan do you need, and what you should have in a drawer so that when Chris goes over there, there's everything from your resume to your license to everything that you need. Because Chris, that's what takes us the longest in putting a loan together. People can't find their life insurance policy. People don't know where their credit card thing is. People can't find their GB98 license. People can't find, oh yeah, I do have a health plan, but I don't know who it's with. I do have a life insurance policy, but I'm not sure the cash value. So what it does is it allows you to get organized as you go through here. I'm going to turn this now over to a dear friend and colleague, probably one of the smartest guys that I know. That's why I hang around with him. That's why I hang around with Chris. And I'm going to turn you on to Marvin Lozano, who is a skilled financial consultant. I'm going to let him spend some time going through these documents. And then, Chris, we do want to leave time for questions. And maybe even some of you that are out there, if you don't mind telling us what you're looking for, what you have, we might be able to guide you as to a shortcut to being one of the $1 million worth of loans that we're going to make this next month. So I'd like to turn it over now to my good friend, Dr. Marvin Lozano.
Thank you so much, Leroy, and thank you for inviting us, Chris. We really have been looking forward to being here with you today and sharing some of the insights that we'd like to provide and encourage folks to understand the loan fund and to come when they're looking for assistance as a small business, whether it's a loan or some kind of technical assistance. Before I get into that, though, I need to share, Leroy is very kind. He's always complimentary. As those of us who know him, he's very humble about himself. He talks well, and what I've known Leroy a long time. We were with NITA. For those of you who don't know what NITA is, it was the National Economic Development Association. In a lot of ways, it was a precursor before the SBDCs. We had a national contract. There were 24 offices around the country. And we would put together loan packages, take them to banks and take them to the SBA to help start small businesses that they were defined as disadvantaged. The folks had no real understanding of what they needed to do in financing, but they had been working long time and they had the skills, but no one to advocate for them. And so it truly was a social justice effort to help those people. And little did I know, Leroy didn't know. I was in Phoenix and he was here. So many years later, when my wife and I relocated in the 90s, I met Leroy, who was president of the Hispano Chamber. And we started talking and learned that we were in different states, but a lot of the same work early on. So it really is a privilege to work with him.
A lot of fun.
And he's a great leader. So just want to express my thank you, okay? Because I think this is the kind of work that's ongoing here in New Mexico. It's ongoing in other states, but we're lucky to have the Loan Fund here. And so I put together a small PowerPoint, Chris, if I may. I want to share that with you. But before we get started, is it possible to learn from the participants who is in business and who's considering a startup? That'll help me kind of focus in the time that we have.
Chris, do we get their pictures on here or not? They're not on the camera?
Oh, they're not on camera, but I could do by a show of hands. How many of you are in business? There's one.
Okay.
And I know there's two. So there's two in business, four not. Four who haven't yet to start.
Okay. So that's good to know. So there's some startup type information that would be helpful, and certainly information for those that are already in business then, that want to know about us a little bit more. Is that my understanding then?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. So I would like to begin with just the PowerPoint, and I'd like to intermingle some thoughts as we go along that would focus on helping the startups as well as those that are in business in there. So thank you very much. And next slide, please, Chris, since we spent some time already on this. The mission is very important. Every organization has a mission. And I would encourage those of you in the audience that whether you're considering to start or whether you're in business, go back and take a look to see if you have a mission statement, because that will drive you in a direction once you focus your energies to either start up or to continue to develop and grow your business. And it doesn't have to be very complicated. It can be 2 sentences. You can see the Loan Fund's loan mission. It's very to the point, and we have it there for you. You can see it's simply, we provide loan assistance, we provide loans rather, and assistance to improve what? The economic and social conditions of New Mexicans. So you can see that we're here to help, certainly to serve those of you that are in the audience. We're here in New Mexico to focus on that. We're not a subsidiary of a big organization or a big bank that's out of state. We're right here trying to do the things that will help you folks that are in small businesses. So the key words are loans and assistance. So we do, and I'll speak to that a little bit in the next slides, but we do both. So it just depends. I don't want folks, and we don't want you to feel excluded. When you think of the Loan Fund, think of loans and assistance helping you here in New Mexico. Next, please. Next slide, Chris. Okay, so here we have four bullets, and it's easy to remember the Loan Fund because we have that wonderful graphic you see at the very top. And I think that truly reflects New Mexico. When you see the sun, the bright sun, the mountains, and the land, it could be the prairies up north, could be the mountains like the Sandias we have here in Cruces, the Oregon mountains, and the bright sunshine that brings so many people here who want to live here, right? We know that's occurring with folks coming every day. So we, the Loan Fund, and all the folks that are here work within the nonprofit, as a nonprofit community lender. Earlier in the previous slide, I said there are loans to be made. And when Leroy was talking in the beginning, he referred to loans that help small businesses. So we're not looking to help the large multinational or those that have branches for multinationals here in New Mexico. We want to help those folks that are starting a business or growing a business and creating jobs. Jobs for folks to work. It's very key, especially in this COVID-19 pandemic era, right? Folks need to be working. And it looks like now with the vaccine in place, a bit more folks getting shots, that's occurring more so. So we're all optimistic about that. But when we think of loans, I'd also like to think of a line of credit because there are two tools that are very important. Okay, so a loan, we typically think of a loan when we say we need some money for a business. It might be that you say, hey, I need money to buy some equipment. It might be money that I need for some machinery. It might be what we call operating funds for you to hire a part-timer, get those jobs going, get them going again. So the way a loan works is it's for a certain amount of time, a certain number of years, a certain interest rate, okay? And that way you get a reasonable monthly payment. And we need to interact with you as the applicant so that we know a little bit later, I'll share about, like Leroy was indicating earlier, what are the things that you need to bring to us, to any lender for that matter, but to us so we can expedite and get you an approval. And without those things, we really are in the dark, so to speak. We don't have the tools that we need. So loans, okay? We are in a very interesting era because there are low rate COVID rates that have never been offered before, 3.75% rates, okay? And those are available for loans. Many times people are thinking of PPP programs, which is okay, and that's for what? To keep your employees at work. But we also need to understand that folks need a loan for what? Growth in terms of buying machinery and equipment. So those are another type of loan that's available there, but also with a preferable interest rate, okay? Lines of credit are a little bit different. And typically the way I explain this to somebody in business or who's starting a business is think of it in terms of how a credit card works. Not the high interest rates, okay? But the idea that you get approved for an amount and you control the advances on it. It's a good tool because with that tool, as you're looking, I have a client right now, he's a trucker, small business, trucker here in Albuquerque, and he's hauling goods all over the state and out of state for that matter. Okay, and it's considered an essential business. He needs to deliver goods. But he's saying to me now, he says to me, I need another truck, another tractor, if you will, to haul, right, to pull the cargo. And he says, but I haven't found it yet. So for him, the line of credit is perfect, right? Because the line of credit, we get it approved for him, and then he draws on it when he finds what he needs and doesn't start paying interest until then. Okay, so we're here to help you with those tools, and we can explain them further. We provide counseling, the second bullet, consulting also, and training services. So maybe some folks have a need to clarify their marketing. Maybe you've done your business plan. Maybe the SBDC is helping you with a business plan and you want to bounce it off of someone else, someone who's lending money. The SBDs do a wonderful job putting together business plans and projections, and that's very helpful. We, in turn, take those and look at how we can make a feasible loan using that material. So, and then continue training afterwards, because we work with the SBA. Leroy's been very effective, as has the rest of the supporting staff, in reaching out and getting help from SBA, funding from SBA, to provide consulting and training services. So we have those available for you folks. A key idea, again, is that we are a nonprofit, and that third bullet goes to that. This organization was started by the New Mexico Conference of Churches. And Leroy works daily with these folks, right, Leroy? He's always working to renew the assistance through funds that these folks have provided the loan fund with, because they have a sincere interest in doing what? In helping New Mexico grow. And so they're willing to say, hey, we're going to help you because we're going to invest in you. So back in 1987, as many of us know, not everyone, but New Mexico has always been a high poverty state. Okay, and so we're number one, right? And so it impacts a lot of things. One of the things very close to my heart is education. Obviously, that's one thing I was involved with for many years, and it's something that everything's connected in one way or the other to education, to economics, to jobs, and all. And so when a small business gets money, they hire people. Those people then have families. The money goes to help their children go to school, whether they go to a public school or some other type of school. They're getting assistance, right? So we all work together. Well, one of the things I'm really proud to share with you is that Leroy's been doing this a very long time, and under his leadership, we're now looking at 30 years. Can you imagine that's 30 years where the loan fund has been making loans to small businesses. And it's really impressive because I'll get calls from people who were here long before I was, okay, who will say, this loan, this little small loan, this loan for 20,000, this loan for 15,000, this loan for 30, for 40, for 50, whatever it was, has really helped me. And I'll share some testimonials with you a little bit later on another slide. But now I'm really, really going. There's one business in particular that started out with a $15,000 loan. 3 weeks ago, we were able to get them money. I think it was close to $800,000. Okay, that's how much they've grown over time. And with the appropriate documentation they bring in, show that they have grown and are able to pay a loan like this.
Second location.
Second location. Okay, so they're truly growing. Look at all the jobs they're creating, and all the help they're doing. On the west side is exploding, and that's their next area, right? So really important things I think that the loan fund does. Next slide, Chris. And if some of you have questions, I know Chris had shared with me, he likes to have folks feel they can participate. Please feel free to ask a question. We would be more than happy to answer a question if we might be able to with the time we have. That makes it good for everybody. So business plans, business plans are very interesting because there's many of them out there. And so when we think of a business plan outline, when we're looking at it for loan purposes, there's certain things we look at. And I like to say, and I'll just dovetail on Leroy's comment that it truly is a micro type outline, right, Leroy?
Yeah, what's important, exactly right. People ask us all the time, two big questions. Is it a good time to start a business? It's always a good time to start a business. It depends on what you make, what you provide. Number two, do I need a business plan? You don't need one this thick. And Marvin's going to go through, they asked me if they need a business plan. Well, if you don't have one, it's like driving at night with no lights on. Sooner or later, you're going to hit somebody or somebody's going to hit you because you don't know where you're going and they don't know where you're going. So 5 simple steps that Marvin's going to go through. So when you sit down, he's going to tell you how quick. We get some business plans that are 1 or 2 pages, but they tell us exactly what we're going to ask you about today. So and you've seen some of these, Chris, so make it simple, make it easy. And if you just answered, you took 5 pages today and just wrote down these 5 things, Marvin's going to guide you as what you need for a business plan that you can grow from, that Chris can help you in the marketing area. Chris can help you in the other things. So we just want to give you the starters, the things that you need to do, that most of our clients on the $100 million that we've lent out in the last 30 years have brought us. And so Marvin, go ahead and talk about it. This is a real important part of this step here.
And so here's the thing, that we try to keep it simple so that everyone can do this, okay? You don't need to be an expert in business plan writing. Number 1, tell us who you are, right? Tell us who you are. We don't know that, no more than if you go to a traditional banker. I taught at CNM for over 25 years. I hate to say that long, it dates me, right? But I taught entrepreneurship. I was the lead instructor for entrepreneurship. And over many years, one of the things that I always would share was that, whether you go to a bank, a traditional bank, a credit union, or whether you come to us, okay, you need to be able to convey to whoever you're going to for money who you are. They're risking an investment in you, and if They don't know. If I don't know who you are, how can I invest in you? How can we advocate for you? Okay, tell us what you do. Because that's very important. And when we're looking at the ability to pay a loan, it's, do you know anything about what you want to do? Maybe you've been working in the restaurant field for years, okay? But unless you tell us, we don't know. So tell us briefly what you do. Have you been supervising people? You know, that's important. That's really key important. I remember when in the early years when we were doing this work, with NIDA many years ago, before there were the current business plan format, yet a lot of this was still being used at that time, or was initially being used. It was like sometimes we would get folks that come and say, but I'm at home and I'm always at home, I'm raising a family. And so we'd say, but you create a budget, don't you? Do you do a budget to run the family? You know, do you do a budget? Because what that showed us is you have some analytical skills that you are able to say, hey, I know I manage money. Okay, so don't make less of yourself. Look for ways, you know, that you can tell us who you are, okay, and how it relates to what you want to do. Okay, so when do you want to do this? You know, many times folks, I think what I find many times is that they may come in and want to do this tomorrow. So here I encourage you, get started as soon as you start thinking about this by thinking, when will you be ready? You know, what is it you're going to need? So it may be in 6 months. That's okay. Okay. Then that's what you want to do. You want to definitely let us know. So think about it and, you know, write these things down. They can be brief. Okay. But write them down. It shows clarity of thinking. Okay. Where do I want to do it? So tell us. We cover all of New Mexico, right, Leroy? There are loans in northern New Mexico, beyond Taos, in Cruces, in eastern New Mexico, in Roswell. I mean, and so you're a best advocate for the community because you know that community. You know the customers and you know what they're like and whether they can sustain your business, okay? So be clear on that. You don't have to be real lengthy, but tell us, do you know who your customers are? You know, how many there are? And then how are you going to do this? When I was a banker, one of the things that always was talked about by other bankers, and for that matter, anyone that's in lending, was when you'd hear someone come in and say, I want a loan. And then the lender would say, well, how much do you need? And then the borrower might say, well, how much will you lend me? And so it was kind of like a circle, right? So what you want to do is be prepared. Don't, please, I'll say it this way. I encourage you not to ask how much will someone lend you. Rather, you figure out how much you need. You know, write it on paper. Listen, I need a truck, like that trucker I was telling you about earlier. He says, I need this kind of a truck because it doesn't have to be new, but it's one I can use to help me grow my business.
This is really important. You know, Marvin and I are the old hippies from the 60s. If you all remember the Rolling Stones song, can't always get what you want, but sometimes you can get what you need, right? Sometimes people come in asking for $2 million. By the time we restructure and do some stuff, they walk out with the line of credit and the loan that they need. Okay, so that's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Sometimes it's the Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Water.
Oh, that's a good one.
So we sit down and say, so the line of credit you got canceled by the bank. What do you need? And so sometimes we're a Simon and Garfunkel fan, etc. And if you come to my office and Chris's office too, and take a look at what's on our desk, I always tell my son, I said, sometimes I'm a Beatles fan. I said, what do you mean? I said, 8 days a week. We work 8 days a week, really. So we're a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame lender. Does that make sense? So what Marvin is telling you now, who are you? What do you want to do? When are you going to do it? Where are you going to do it? How are you going to do it with how much money from the loan fund? That's very simple 5 steps on a business plan. And then you fill it in later and go get what you need, demographics and things like that from Chris to help you fill in about your market, your customers, things that you want to learn in order to sell your tortillas, your welding, your coffee, whatever that might be that you're good at. And this is what we find out. As Marvin said, we're lending to generational businesses. We're lending to family businesses that have been in business business for New Mexico. Kids who have learned from their grandpas, their tias, their tios, and etc., and they want to do it themselves. We made a loan the other day. I had the grandfather, the father, and the son in my office. 50 years of generational experience and skills being passed down to the son. And so those are the type of loans that Marvin and I and the loan fund make. Is we lend to New Mexico businesses that are either starting up because I learned how to tar roofs and do shingles from my dad, so I start my own construction company. Or I'm ready to retire and I turn it over to my son, or I turn it over to Chris Garcia, my foreman, who's been with me for 20 years. So we deal with succession of businesses and generational businesses. Go ahead,
That's
Marvin.
exactly right. Next slide, please, Chris. The next slide. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. So let's see if we can talk about some of those important items within the business plan that you've done those 5 things we talked about, right? And in the previous slide, and you're clear and you've written them down. Don't be afraid to just write them out. You don't need to do a fancy, what we call executive summary in business plan writing, right, Chris? The executive summary is nice, and sometimes it looks real pretty, right, when we lay it down. But we're looking at the content that's in there. Okay, so the way you can strengthen that then is for any lender, they're looking for certain things on the financial side. Okay, but this thing would start, thing meaning the profile. A profile would be your resume. It might be something very basic, a 1-pager, but tell us a little bit about who you are, again, your name, where you live, all right, what experience you have. That's really important. You know, what have you been doing? For how long have you been doing this? Okay, and so a basic resume of some sort, all right? If you have a credit report, share that with us. If you have one recently, let us know about it. Recently, I was talking with a client who was interested in a loan, and so one of the things he shared was initially, right on the initial call, I'm talking with him, he says, well, you know, my financial statements look really good the past 2 years. My sales have gone up. My expenses are being managed and my profit is pretty good. I can show you I can pay the loan. And I'm saying, well, that's really good. Let's get you an application so we can look further, you know, and we can understand. And so it's important here. Well, the reason I'm sharing this, it's important to share the credit report. So 2 conversations later, I learned that there have been some credit issues, some significant credit issues. So by knowing that in the beginning, we could have addressed it, okay, and saved some time and make some suggestions. Right?
You all can call right now, and if you want to write this down, annualcreditreport.com. Annualcreditreport.com, and you can get a free credit report. So if you haven't seen your credit, you should check it. Because years ago, I had another Leroy Pacheco cabinet maker who didn't pay his bills. And boy, I got confused with a bad credit guy. It took me a year to straighten it out. So you can go to annualcreditreport.com today and get yourself, and you can see what's on there right now. It won't give you a credit score, but it'll give you your credit report. It's a good point.
Right, and then that way we can see what the big picture is like. You know, where do we need to go with this? Can we help? Or if it may be that the credit report has some dings, but you've done well since then. We don't know unless you share that with us, okay? Moving on, it may be that you have number 3s, degrees, certificates, licenses. The issue there is really, tell us a little bit about your strengths. You know, what do you have in terms of some training, some education, some classes you've taken? More power to you if you have more of that, okay? It just helps us because sometimes you may be looking, let's say if it's the kind of jobs that requires you to be a licensed person to do the work, right? Or to have a certification. If you're in a business that does collision repair and you need to work on foreign cars, do you have the certifications to do it? Or is it just something that you said, gee, that sounds good, I'd like to do it, right? Big difference. Are you prepared to do it? Because if you're not, maybe that's what you should be focusing on now, okay? Number 4 is the current personal financial statement. Number 5 is personal tax returns. So here, current personal financial statement is something that is within, let's say, what would you say, Leroy? 3 months?
Within 90 days to
90
6
days.
months at least, yes, yeah.
Yeah, so something that reflects that will define current as, let's say, that period of time that Leroy is saying, no later than 6 months, right? Because we need to get a picture of what's there. And any lender will ask you for that anyway. So be working on it before you approach someone. If do as much as you can. If you get stuck, do as much as you can, then come in and we can help you. Okay? Personal tax returns 2 to 3 years. In this era, lots of folks are saying, well, gee, I don't have 2020 yet. Okay, so rather than look at it what I don't have, look at it from what you do have. Okay, so maybe you have 18 and 19, okay, and you're going to get 20, but you just don't have it yet. Okay, and then when you do get it, all right, then we go forward. Because in the next slide, Chris, there's something called interim company financial statements. Okay, so the way that works is this way. So if someone says to me, well, I don't have 2021, which you wouldn't have yet, I'll say something like, well, do you have maybe for 3 months, let's say January through March of 2021, so that we know how things are going for you. It's critical, especially in this pandemic area. Is it going up or is it down? And in fact, some of the COVID programs that are out there require you to have that information anyway for you to qualify, right? They want to know whether your period this past quarter has gone down, 25% as compared to the same quarter a year ago. So that is a requirement. You can prepare that in advance or start collecting it so that you qualify for the type of loan that you need. So company tax returns is a little different, right? So let's say when we talk about forms of organization, you may be a sole proprietor, right? You may be an LLC, form of organization, limited liability company, okay? You may be incorporated. These are all choices you can make by going and talking with your SBDC advisor. They can guide you with this. I know that for a fact. That advisors are trained to help you actually identify and go to the appropriate place to get registered for what you need, and they're very good at it. Advisors are trained and they can do this very quickly for you. Talk with you, counsel with you, then you decide what you want. They can help you go forward. Okay, company tax returns, yeah, I mean, they're very, very important. So it may be that you are, let's say, your business is Cookies, Albuquerque Cookies Incorporated, right? That you had selected that. So we would need your personal tax returns and then the ones for what? For that particular business, because it has Inc. and it has incorporated, meaning separate financial statements, right? That's what we mean about company tax returns, okay? 8, 9, and 10 go to the ideas of other things you want to be thinking of. Life insurance, health insurance, many times, and even other kinds of insurances. If we lend, and we do that all the time, we have someone who comes and says, I have a wonderful building that I want to use as collateral for this loan. And we say, okay, let's take a look at the building, and it looks like it would be a good source of collateral, which is very important. The 4 things are credit, the framework, if you will, that lenders look at. It's pretty traditional. This first one is, what is your credit like? We talked about that earlier. Okay, what is your collateral? We're talking about that in terms of if you put up a house or equipment or machinery. Okay, another way of thinking of it is, what are you risking? What's your part that you're putting in your equity, right? And what are you putting in? Because if you're not sharing something, The question may become, well, if you're not willing to risk something, why is it that you want the lender to risk something? Money, right? So think of it that way. But here, the way that relates to number 8 is it may be that you have this piece of property that you offer as collateral. Somewhere down the road, the lender will say, you know, if there's a building on it, we want to make sure there's insurance on it. Because if you use it, we use it as collateral, you've offered it, we take it. We don't want the building to burn down, nobody does. But if there's insurance on it, everyone's protected, okay? And the loan's paid off, okay? Or at least the portion that covers the building, right? And so health and life insurance matters too. It may be, and I haven't seen this in a while, Leroy, but I know life insurance sometimes gets assigned.
We've used that assignment policy. What Marvin's bringing out is these 10, 12 things that you have right here. You should go and find a cabinet in your garage or your office, and you should set, Chris will make the folders for you and set it up, resume, etc. These are things that you need to keep current every year. Every year you take the old tax return, put the new one in. Every year you update your personal financial statement. Every year you look at your life insurance policy, your health insurance policy, your IRA, your credit card balances. So when Chris asks you to bring the following things up, it doesn't take you 5 days. You've got it all ready to go, and it's all up to date. So do yourself a favor and find yourself a drawer, and this is your profile. When photographers come to see us, they bring us their pictures. When the contractor comes to see us, they bring us pictures of the houses or the remodeling of it. This is your profile, your resume, your personal tax returns, your business tax returns, your credit, what life insurance, health insurance, 401k you have, and what credit cards you have. And if you've been in the newspaper, if you're on a board of directors of the Berlin Chamber of Commerce, you tell us that. This is your profile. You need to keep this current every year for as long as you're in business. Okay, this is what takes us many times that we wait for because people can't find that health insurance policy. People can't find their life insurance policy. People know they have an IRA, but they don't know what the balance is. And so these are things that we're helping you right now that other businesses have made a mistake and have not kept current and wonder why it takes so long to put a loan together, because they can't find their x-rays. They can't find their health report. Does that make sense? So this is what Mel said. These 10, 12 things that we're talking about now, you need to make sure you keep them current. And I can show you 10 or 12 businesses that we've lent to, and I can go to their house and this drawer is current because their business is successful. And they know how important it is to stay up to date. So when Marvin or Chris ask for something, you can get it to them right away. Not a week later, 2 weeks later, when we ask you for 12 things and you bring us 6. And with those 6, Chris says, well, how do you think, Leroy, how does this look? How long do loans like this take? Well, you didn't bring me your x-rays. Let me get my magic wand and wave it and guess what it looks like. So do yourself a favor and put a drawer together, put 12 folders and start filling them in. And if you don't know how to do it, Chris will show you how to do that right there. So these 12 things are to get you going.
It really is true, because see, many times I think what happens, and that's natural, folks wait till they need something to ask for it. But when we're talking about loans, to wait till the last minute, it does yourself a disservice, because then the lender can do what they need to do to evaluate your loan and move quickly for you. So by all means, do what Leroy's saying is begin early and file these things. You have the items that are necessary. And so that way you go with your little folder right when you put your meeting in. You need this, here it is. You need this, here it is. And then the loan advocate, lender, whoever the person is, can move with what you have. They have what they need.
You have about 15 minutes.
So, right? Next one, please. Okay, copies of media mentions. If you've gotten some sort of mention in the media, that's great. Think about how you can use it to your advantage. One year I helped work with many years ago, was a food franchise. This individual was out in the community, and one day he decided that he was going to contribute. It was a hamburger franchise. He's going to contribute hamburgers and soda to kids that were 12 and under. It happened to be on the Christmas holiday on that day. And he got a service organization to come in and work, and he let his employees off. Okay? And so it was a win-win situation, and it got media coverage. It was in the newspaper, and boy, did that look good for him, and he brought that in, whenever we needed to work with him. So again, memberships, if you belong to some memberships that can show you're a good manager in leadership, by all means, bring that in too. Next, Chris. Okay, so who are your partners? None of us can do, well, at least I would argue that we are all part of a team, one way or the other, okay? And so this is what we're looking at here. We say partners, it could be your business team, okay? So do you have an accountant? Do you have someone who is a bookkeeper? Who's handling the numbers for you? This is important. If you don't have one, those of you that are already in business, I understand, some of you, when we initiated or when we started talking, are already in business, you probably have this. Those of you that you don't, start thinking, who would be a good accountant for you? Or a bookkeeper? There are many out there looking for your business. You may need an attorney. Here it depends how complicated the business is you're having. And even if you don't need one now, start finding out who are the attorneys in your field that you could draw on. Insurance agents, you're going to need an insurance agent. We talked about life insurance, home insurance, mortgage insurance, all that stuff. Find out whether you connect. A lot of this is relationship based. We talk about that many times, is that you need to see yourself as a business person, which means as a business person, you build relationships. Okay, not just with your customers and your employees, but with these people. Who's going to promote? Sometimes what I hear people say, especially students, or social media. Okay, that's great. That is a form of advertising. But the question I will always come back to, and you see it a lot in the marketing books, is, I say, well, what's the most powerful form of promotion? Any of you know? Or would you like to venture a guess? It is actually yourself. You are the best form of promotion. So whenever you're out and about, maybe you're out at a meeting, maybe in your community, you're a member of the school board, or you go, to a PTA meeting, whatever it is, stand up, and show yourself, and present yourself so that people get to know you. They'll be buying from you at some point. So they want to know who you are, so promote yourself.
How do I find you? Where radio, TV, newspapers. Chris is really good about this. There are some things in newspaper advertising, coupons, radio, or something work best. And Chris is really good about finding that mix for you. Again, how do I find you? Radio, TV, newspapers, business cards. Do you stand on the corner like this and go, burritos $1? How do you get your customers? So that's a good. And then the last one, which is really
business
important,
cards, right?
Business card.
Get
Right?
yourself a business card. And banking. Leroy's referring on the banking. And it's important to understand the loan fund is a bank. Okay? It's a community-based lender, okay, which is a bank. Okay, a bank that's here to help you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we do. It's a business bank, if you will. Next, Chris. Okay, testimonials, just briefly, so you can see folks that are very thankful to the loan fund. Key partner, in success, the first one, invaluable asset. Second one, when I've had an issue, I've reached out and the loan fund's been there to help me. That's Delia Gallegos. By the way, we speak English and Spanish here, okay? We can help you if that's an issue for you. And then the third thing, or the third one, is from Aaron Perez, co-owner of Perez Collision. It's great knowing someone was out there who knows that falling down and getting back up, knows about falling down and getting back up. And I think those are very things to be proud of.
Yes, long-term clients, all doing very, very well. What Marvin's done is gone through and giving you real quick how to do a mini business plan, who your partners should be. Should I have a bookkeeper, accountant, insurance agent? How do I find you? And have I separated Chris Garcia from Chris LLC at the bank, right? You need to separate the personal from the business. And those are 5 things. You can talk to the most successful business owner and he'll give you these 5 names. He'll tell you where he banks, how he finds his customers, who insures all his vehicles, what kind of legal structure he has, and who keeps his books. Okay, every successful business person, whether they do it themselves or whatever, need to have this teammate right now. So we've given you an idea of what you need to, if I come to your office and Chris Garcia and I come to visit, I want to see that drawer that starts with your resume, your pictures, your license, your stuff. So when I ask you for something, all you got to do is go to the door and get a drawer and get a copy. So we're giving you 50, 60 years worth of experience here in making loans so that you're well prepared when Chris puts your financial package together. That when you come to see us, I don't have to go, oh my God, Chris, why did you send me Marvin over here? He doesn't even have a mini. Oh, Chris, he doesn't even, instead of going, Chris, thank you very much. Have you got another one? Right? That's what we did with the wellness center. And my God, how 2 nurses breaking out on their own have a very successful wellness center now because of what Chris was able to do with them and putting together the information they have. And then now because we're running short of time, I want Marvin to mention right now just something that he and his wife, Dr. Michaela Rivera, have put together over the last 50 years that we want to make available to you. For those of you that are bilingual.
This is the next one.
Go ahead, next slide.
Next slide.
This is something that Marvin has been working on for years, and we're making it available. We sent one to Chris. I've sent one to a couple of other bankers and other people. This is a great workbook. Why don't you take a couple minutes, and then we'll go to questions, because I know, Chris, we're getting close to the 1 hour that we have right now.
Yeah, this book is what I call, I think it's a labor of love. My wife and I, Dr. Rivera, put together because we believe that with small businesses, your family is an important part of that. And many times it's not talked about or addressed in books. And your culture, especially in New Mexico, we have a multicultural environment. And so it's important. And it's also important to share with you, it is a bilingual book. What's unique about it is on one page, it's entirely in English. On the opposite page is in Spanish, the same thing. So you can read it in English or you can read it in Spanish. And the way we like to think of it is this way. If you say, well, gee, I don't speak Spanish. Well, here's your opportunity. If you're an English speaker, is to learn some. If you're a Spanish speaker, here's an opportunity to learn some English. Because in the end, we're dealing with customers that we don't distinguish, right? The customer wants to buy your product or your service. And maybe if you can communicate with them and understand their family, their culture, and how they do business a little bit, you'll be more effective. That was the idea behind this book. Okay.
And if you take a look at this book when you get a chance, chapter 2 is just what we were talking about, your vision and your mission for your business. So you can go to chapter 2, and on one side it's in English, the other's in Spanish. You can go to chapter 5. What are we talking about just a little while ago? Pre-startup estimate, monthly cash flow projections, and a word on alternative lending. So it's got chapters, so you don't have to go to all the chapters. Go to the chapter that you think might help you the best in English and Spanish. And I tell people who come to see me and talking in Spanish, when you get your loan, I don't give you your loan in pesos. I give it to you in dollars. So you do need to learn a little bit of English. Our business card should say habla inglés or se habla español, We speak both. So we need to find out the best way to communicate with you. And if it's in your language of Spanish, then let's start there, but make sure that you understand what it means like in English. That's why this book is so good. And it's a workbook. And we want to make sure people get out and use it later on. We're down to a few minutes, I think, or something, Chris. I'm not sure time-wise. Did we provide this at all or not? There's also
Chris, did you
Chris,
get
did you get the
basic steps?
basic steps
Yes.
in your business? Okay. This is
So
another-
everybody should check their email box and they'll find the
Okay,
basic
very
steps.
This is another very important document. Do I need a license? Where do I register? Do I need a county license? Do I need a state license? Do I need this license? This will help you on the basics of how to start a business and what you need to be legal. We've had some people come in and they've never, what do you mean CRS report? Oh my God, you got to pay state gross receipts tax. Oh, I haven't been taking that. So it'll keep you from getting into trouble as we go through. And that was the purpose of today's opportunity with Chris. And Chris, we want to thank you, is for you and your clients to understand there's a lot of resources available to you. You're not in this by yourself. If I was to make you an SBA loan today of $50,000, I told this to Chris, we have a special relationship with the Small Business Administration. We have a technical assistance program that we've had for 10 years. If I make you a $50,000 SBA loan today for your business, SBA, because of COVID, is helping out with your first 3 payments. Isn't that wonderful? Let's say your payments are $300 a month. That means they're going to pay $900 worth of payments before you even start paying for your food truck or for your agricultural business or for your welding shop. Those are some opportunities that you get. We also, when we make you a loan, we have free technical assistance for you to get you to the SBDC. We sponsor all the SCORE workshops, Service Corps Retired Executives for the state, okay? And all year with Dar Johnson from SCORE, who's on our board. So we have a lot of resources. We're not going to let you hang. We're going to get you to specialized consultants as you need. We're going to get you to Chris. Chris is going to help you do certain things to make sure that you have the best chance. Again, if you're going to start a business, it's the best time to start a business. If you've been working out of your garage, we made a loan last year for about $400,000 to a gentleman who's been doing transmission repair for 30 years in his garage. Now he has a beautiful building right there off of Bridge Street, transmission shop, and his wife said, thank God he's out of the house now. But he has his own building now. He's got 2 employees. He created 2 more jobs, and he's doing what he's been taught by his dad for many, many, many years. Generational change is what we're all about, making sure that we continue the businesses in New Mexico. So today we've gone through a short thing. We've showed you how to start a business, how to stay current on your financials. So when you go to Chris and he asks you for something, they're current. We've told you about the technical assistance that's available through SCORE and through the Small Business Development Centers. We told you about a wonderful resource between now and September on SBA loans that don't exist. So if you need some more information, go to loanfund.org, LOANFUND.org. There's our entire webpage. There's testimonials. There's an application. There's pictures of me. There's bigger pictures of Marvin, etc. Chris, thank you for letting us guide some of your potential clients here today. We're going to turn it back over to you and see if you want to have some questions or comments or something from some of your clients, Chris.
Thank you both. I want to remind everybody on the call that we call them alternative lenders, but our lenders like the Loan Fund and DreamSpring, if it weren't for them, there would be some business owners who wouldn't be in business because a traditional lender like the bank or credit union wouldn't fund them. So we want to thank you for that. I'm going to open up the Q&A. If anybody has a question they'd like to type in there, please type it in. If you want to raise your hand and ask a question, you're welcome to do so. And I don't see anything quite yet.
Chris, I'll tell you right now, we just received an increase in our line of credit of $2.5 million. I would love to lend that out by next Saturday if you can help us. I'm telling you. Right now.
Oh, I have some people going
right now, and I'm telling you what, Marvin just got a loan approved for about $860,000. And we're lending that money at 3.75%. You can't, if you can find any money lower than that, call me and I'll go to work with that. Right now, we're able to pass on some money at a very low rate for business startups. Is anybody there that wants to start a business that has a question? Because right now, I'd like to leave here today making a loan. I mean, I don't make any money unless I lend you money. So right now, if there are any questions or comments, please let us know. If you have a question, hey, look, I only have a car and I need $50,000. And could I use the car for collateral? And what kind of rate and terms can I get? And I make burritos out of my house, or I do a daycare center. We funded a couple of daycare centers and 3 or 4 food trucks last year. We financed about 10 tractor trailer rigs last year. The biggest one just this last week, a 2021 Volvo tractor trailer rig. The thing looks like an apartment. It has a shower in it. It has a TV in it. I mean, I'm thinking of moving into this, right? I mean, all the way from $188,000 down to Mr. Trujillo, who borrowed $5,000 to become the escort for oversized loads on the highway. Right. From $5,000 to $185,000 all in 1 week. So your loan is not too small, and your loan may not be too big for us. But you got to let us know if you can put together this information. Again, there's an application available on our website. If you can't find one, I know Chris can get you one. And get it filled out, get it to us, and let's start the conversation. I'm bringing you a seasoned scholar, colleague, professor, loan officer that you can't find anywhere in town. I have surrounded myself with the most qualified people, the most qualified resources. why do I sit on your advisory board for the last 30 years, Chris? Right? Because the SBDC network is an excellent network to get advice for small business. There's 17 locations, I think, around the state. Take advantage of them. We just made a loan, Marvin put together a loan for Pachamama Bakery Cafe in Silver City. In Silver City. We just made another loan, another bus to Christina Montoya. She's been with us about 20 years. She's now the largest school bus contractor in the south side of New Mexico. I think she's got 40 buses or so. And all the way to the Jaramillo brothers who are coming in to see us next week, who have Black Lake Roasters Coffee and Angel Fire, who have a room about this size with a roaster in it, and they're selling coffee to Lowe's and everybody else that you can think of. So Chris, again, unless there's some other questions, I can talk forever.
We have
talk for the rest of the year, so I'll turn it back to you.
Sounds good. How are you currently lending to the accommodation or restaurant sectors?
You know what? It's been the most challenging for Marvin and I. You could imagine one of our restaurant owners showed up last year and said that I had to close all 3 of my restaurants. I just laid off 71 people. I owe you $250,000, Leroy, and I'm closed. What do you do? Well, so Marvin and I get together and say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take your next 6 payments. We're going to, and a bank won't do this, but we can. And we're going to put your principal and interest payments to the back of your loan. So you have no payments now for the next 6 months. Then we're going to set you up a COVID-19 line of credit, unsecured, for $100,000. You use it over the next year till you get open to pay your landlord, to pay your vendors, to pay your CRS taxes. Use it wisely because we're waiting for you to get open full time. So last year we did 8.6 million of that kind of lending. We deferred payments, took the pressure off your back until you can start to get open. So you're right, those conditions today, we've been able to pivot around them. We had a gentleman came in, we took all of his payments, his mortgage payment, his payments on his equipment and etc., lowered them from, I'm talking about the greetings, etc., lowered them by more than half. By more than half, took his 18% credit card, paid that off and lent him money at 3.75 for the same dollar amount. We lowered his payments probably by $5,000 a month. And then we gave him 6 months of just interest only. And he took a deep breath and said, thank you so much. I can stay open. Okay. So this is why it's so important when you come to see Chris or you come to see us. Let's talk about the good, bad, and the ugly. If you've been profitable before, if you've been working out of your garage and you've been doing okay, let's put together, this is why chapter 5 in this book is really good. It allows you to do a cash flow. Okay, if I make this many tortillas, if I weld, if I work on this many transmissions, if I paint, if I'm an architect, we have probably 50% of our businesses that don't have a storefront. That means they don't have a sign, but they work out of their homes and they make enough money to take care of themselves, their family, and maybe other people. Okay, so you don't need to have a storefront. That's why those questions on how to develop a business plan says, when do you want to do it? Where are you going to do it? You may want to do it out of your home for 6 months till you can rent that location, where you can decide not to open up a restaurant, but buy a food truck. I mean, we did a number of food trucks last year. We have a gentleman who makes food trucks, who takes travel trailers and old things and designs what Chris wants him so he can sell burritos or he can sell barbecue beef, whatever like that. So, Chris, I want to thank you for bringing these individuals. And if you get some questions later on,
We have one more.
give them anything we can help for.
We have actually 2 more. Can I use bakery equipment I purchased with the loan as collateral?
Can you use what?
So this person wants to purchase some bakery equipment. Can they use that as collateral for the loan?
Yes, definitely, no question about it. If you've got a spoon and a fork and you're going to add a mixer and etc., we use all of it together. Does that make sense? Tell us, as Marvin says, what have you got into this? If you're looking for 100% financing, probably ain't going to happen. But if you got a 74 Maverick or a black and white TV and I can take a lien on it and I can watch that black and white TV and I can either take it from you if you don't pay me or give it back to you or give you a long time. Here's the difference between us and a bank. We have very patient funding. Again, we were started in 1989. because New Mexico was #1 in poverty. #1, isn't that really great? Today, I think we're #2, thanks to Mississippi, you know? And so the war on poverty, what we started with, is still alive today. We've lent $100 million in 30 years and haven't made a dent. And I'm looking to lend another $100 million over the next number of years with Marvin and the loan staff that we have right here to make a dent and create jobs. Every time we lend to a sole proprietor or a corporation, if I lend to Chris, I've created one job because now Chris is doing what he's doing. And if he needs help, he hires a part-time. Then he hires another one. We have a gentleman we made too, Chris. We made him 3-4 loans back starting in 2007, 2008, paid him all off. I called him about a year ago, asked him how he was doing. He says, well, why don't you come up and see me? They now have 62 employees. They're going to do $10 million this year to a guy who almost went bankrupt 6 or 7 years ago. He followed the business plan guidelines. His son is now president. His wife is the bookkeeper. The daughter-in-law is the secretary. And he's got 62 families he's taking care of. Now, there's a generational change. There's a gentleman now who not only helped himself, he's in the SBA 8A program, and he's probably going to do $15 million this year. Started right here in this little office years ago with a $10,000 loan. So you can grow your business. You can grow the amount of employees you have if you need them. And you can continue generational business lending in the state of New Mexico for the next 30 years. If you think this will help somebody you know, take this information and give them Chris's name so they can come and see him. If you think this will help one of your vendors, if you think this will help somebody who wants to, we just did another loan for $300-some thousand for a guy who's been the manager of this location for 14 years. The owners wanted to retire. He went back, talked to his wife and his brother, and they came up with $30,000-$40,000. And we made him a loan, and now he's the owner of a company that he's worked at for 14 years. Isn't that wonderful? Succession lending business. And Chris, you understand what that is. I can tell you what, for those that are on here now, and if they come to see me, Chris, and they don't have this put together, I'm going to call you. And I'm going to say, Chris, don't ever let this person come to see me again unless they have what we just told you to bring. Does that make sense?
Oh, I have my walking orders now.
You are very good at getting people to what they need so that they can ask Marvin, what do you think? How long will this loan take? Does that make sense? That's what we're here today for. I hope that somebody from this session today will call us in the next week or so, or whenever, however long, or call you and go, am I ready to go see Marvin? Is this enough, Chris, for me to take to Marvin? I need $35,000 and I have this equipment. Like most carpenters, construction, they have some equipment already. They've got a vehicle already, and now we just did one for an arborist. It's a tree doctor, and he already had so much equipment, and we laid him another $80,000-$90,000, and he bought another chipper, and he bought a bucket truck, and now he's able to do one more crew. And so now he's his business, and he's still coming in for technical assistance. So we remain here for you all, and to get you to Chris to do a cash flow, to do a market analysis, a market strategy, whatever we think might be able to help your business. Our goal here after 30 years is to help you build capacity. Some people don't want to move out of their house. Some people like it just being on their own. It's like my dad, who was in roofing and sanding floors and et cetera. He never wanted to be any bigger. He made just enough money to take care of his 5 kids. He never missed a soccer game, a football game. He never missed anything because he always cut it off at 3 o'clock. He controlled his time, but he made enough money to feed us 5 guys and get us out of the house and get us a good education. And I can still today tar a roof for you, put shingles on something. I also went out and got my GB98 license, learned about real estate, got my real estate broker's license, went out and got my real estate appraiser's license, all while I was at the bank. So you can do a life plan for yourself of where you'd like to be, how big you'd like to be, who you'd like to have there, and then say, and I'm going to turn this over to my son, Chris, in 10 years. I'm going to turn it over to my daughter. I'm going to turn this over like that. Have a plan for what you want to do. I always tell people, if you want to be like somebody, go to the internet, find that top architect, find that top contractor, and then go over there and watch his work, copy his stuff, look at his, and be like Mikey, right? If there's somebody you want to be like, copy the freaking website, go see the color of their trucks. We're making a loan to a Roadrunner concrete. If you ever seen those pink concrete trucks, pink. Imagine years ago when that first one showed up at the site, and they went, "Whoa, what is this coming over here?" Owned by a woman-owned business. Okay, couldn't get any money years ago. Years ago, I lent money to another lady with 7 or 8 pink Volkswagens back in the 70s before you were born, Chris. It was called Paper Taker. I said, "What do you do?" She said, "Well, I take any paper from here to Taos and back that same day." You can't get FedEx to do it. You can't unless you're doing emails or faxes or something like that. And so she ended up starting with 1 Volkswagen, 8 Volkswagens later, and then 2 years later, she sold the business to a bank and made a ton of money and retired in Branson, Missouri. So she built wealth in her business. Sole proprietor, 1 person with 6 drivers that she had on contract. So this is what Chris is good at doing, and I hope those that are listening, if you're still listening and not watching Days of Our Lives on TV,
That's at 1.
There is a lot of resources available to you. You're not by yourself. You've got skilled and experienced people like Chris and Marvin who are just waiting for you to bring us information. We're going to lend, with Marvin's years, we're going to lend $2.5 million this next month to people just like you that are listening right now. Okay? Just like those of you that are listening right now with your notes, I hope. And hope you're not putting a mustache and stuff on my picture and stuff like that that you had. But you can put a $sign there next to Marvin's. Say, maybe my idea might work. But let us look at it. Let us help guide you. But there are resources available right now. If somebody told me I could get $50,000 today for my business and not have to make a payment for 90 days that the U.S. government would make it for me, I'd jump on it in a minute. Now would be the time. And people, Marvin and I both taught. I taught at Columbia College too for showing how people to do business plans. And it's really, really important that you have the passion for what you're doing. I don't care if you're making burritos, if you're painting. We lent money. We just made a loan to a musician out in Santa Fe. We made a loan to Firefly Lighting over by Buffalo Thunder. If you go to Buffalo Thunder Casino right across the street, there's a welder. Firefly Lighting, what do you do? He says, "I make custom chandeliers." Wow, these are beautiful. Yeah, problem is I'm paying 42% for my loan. Whoa. So we made him a loan at 6. He saved enough interest to hire a part-time guy. And now he's doing, I believe, the rooms for the Bishop's Lodge in Santa Fe. All the sconces and the metal and stuff like that in there. A little guy from freaking Milwaukee, right? That bothered to fill out this information and bring it to us. And we were able to get him the fuel. We're like a gas station. We have people show up with a quarter tank of gas and they're driving to Alamogordo. I go, "You won't be able to come back. But let us give you a line of credit. Now you know that you can come back whenever you want." Does that make sense? That's what Marvin's here. Marvin and Chris are here to watch your flow of cash. The 5 C's of lending, Chris, and you know, credit. How's your credit? Are you walking away from your bills or not? Or are you paying? When I get a credit report and I look at $1.85 for Verizon, and I go, "Pay it. What are you doing to argue?" Well, I'm arguing. Sometimes bad credit is because of medical issues or a divorce or a death. But if you don't know how to read it, you can say, "Man, let me pull this stuff out of here. You really paying your bills. You're not running away from your Sears account. You're not running away from your Kmart account." Okay? And so credit is important, but we've made some loans with very low credit who have showed us a cash flow that shows how and we lend with them contract by contract, bus by bus, tortilla by tortilla. Does that make sense? So it's important for us when we look at credit, capacity to pay, is there cash flow right here? What collateral do I have? Well, that's good, but it's all Chris has and I'm going to take it. And because Chris is engaged, he's got anything that he owns because he wants that opportunity to fail. Let me tell you what, if you have what Chris wants you to have when you come and see us, our hit ratio is about 70%. Do you know that? We make about 70% of the loan applications that come to see us because they're well prepared by the SBDC. We have everything we need so that Marvin can sit down. He calls me and we spend 10 or 15 minutes and he'll have 5 or 6 loan applications and he knows how to underwrite. Okay, we're making right now. I just look right now. We are already up to 15 loans this month, and it's what, the 20th of the month. 15 loans, all the way from Taos to Socorro to Silver City to Deming to Santa Teresa. We just did another beef jerky one up in Rio Rancho. Great beef jerky. Wait till you taste them, Chris. I'm going to send you some down there. So unless there's something else, Chris, Marvin, if you want to close with anything.
Oh, just to encourage you all to definitely, I wanted to share, I was jotting a few things a little earlier. One of them was I wanted to mention before we went off that Chris is very well respected. I've had the privilege of knowing him well for some time now. And whenever, a good indicator to me of someone who's respected is when that person's not around. How people talk about him in a very positive way. So you've got a wonderful person there at the SBDC to help you. He's very genuine, and I want to thank you, Chris, for having me.
Chris, we're not here to judge. We're here to tell you what you need in order to fund your idea, if it's a new one, or what you've been doing for a number of years part-time, or what you've learned from your dad, or your grandma, or your grandpa. I have tasted more salsa and cheesecake and tortillas over the last 30 years, you can tell. Because somebody says, oh, my grandma makes the best salsa. Really? Let me see. Wow, you're exactly right. Now, how do we get it there? We buy honey from Taos Valley Honey. We buy coffee packets from Black Lake Grocers and Angel Fire. We buy tortillas and beef jerky from Nativo down in Santa Teresa. We buy stuff from Anthony, New Mexico. We have a daycare center in Anthony, New Mexico. We have cafes in Cuesta. We buy Taos Mountain Bars out of Cuesta. We buy chili out of the Villanueva General Store that's been there since 1905 in Villanueva, New Mexico. The best chile molido that you can buy. Okay, we buy from our people. We're putting together a map, Chris. I'm going to send you sort of the Camino Real from Santa Teresa to Angel Fire and all the products we buy all along and all the services that are there. Okay, we're hoping that that'll become our little tiendita, our little store on our website. You want honey? Click right here. You want beef jerky? Click over here. You need a bus? Click over here. You need collision repair? Check over here with Pettis Collision. You need the best steaks and seafood? I'm going to take you next time again to Vernon Steakhouse. If you haven't heard of it, there started by my friend Vernon Garcia years ago. Okay, that went to school with me. Best steaks and seafood. I'll take you to 5th Street to 66 Acres, which is Myra Gaddis, the Gaddis family. 60 years they've been in business, and she has the best 2 restaurants in town. And so we'll take you there. We'll take you to the Kings of Rap. Kings of Rap, I thought it was a rock group. It's a guy who wraps trucks and cars with all sorts of logos and designs. He's the best in Rio Rancho. Mr. Ulabari, the Kings of Rap. What a nice tone, right? I'll take you to Santa Fe to Who's Donuts. Who's Donuts? Who's Donuts. Located right next to the Chocolate Smith, his wife. They have a donut, flash frozen donuts. And he now has Sprouts and Whole Foods and etc. as a customer. I tasted those. Let me taste a flash frozen donut. So after I let them thaw, etc., just delicious because they flash freeze them right away when they're hot. So they keep their flavor, they keep all the nutrients, etc. And right next door is another gentleman, Mr. Ortega, who owns Edible Arrangements. You've heard of Edible Arrangements? We have 3 businesses right in a row in Santa Fe next to each other, and they're knocking it out of the water because they had a good business plan, they have good cash flow, they got the right legal structure, we know how to find them, and they've separated their banking from their business and their personal. Make sense? They follow the guidelines that Chris lays out for everybody to listen to. So Chris, again, Marvin and I can't thank you enough for the opportunity. We have money. I have blank checks available today. So if anybody, the first ones, Chris, put your name on a couple of them and tell me who to lend them to. Okay?
Sounds good. It's always
I want to thank you, and I will make sure that Russell Wyrick and everybody knows about our session today. Okay? I told Adrian Gallegos about it, that we were going to be here. today to let her know that we were doing the session. So I'm going to continue to let her know what I think is one of the best small business development centers in the state of New Mexico.
Well, thank you. Thank you to you both. It's always a pleasure. Thank you to everybody who spent time with us today. And I'm going to end the webinar for all, and I hope you reach out to the SBDC and to the Loan Fund. We thank you.
Gracias. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Bye.
Adios. Good to see you.